Spacebird Media.
Why do so many people find solace in the crackle of a vinyl record? Let's dive in. This isn't just another vinyl podcast, it's a journey into the heart of recovery, through the universal language of music. Each week we share powerful stories of overcoming addiction and life's toughest challenges. Together, we'll uncover how the warmth of vinyl can guide us through moments of vulnerability and strength. So, drop the needle, lean in, and let the music heal. Let's get started.
This is Records in Recovery.
And welcome to Records in Recovery, where each and every week we love to just catch up, talk about music, the songs that have helped us to heal in the midst of those really dark times, or just the ones that made really great summers. So as we get a chance to do that, whether it be with artists who are writing the music that are affecting our soundtracks, or just music in general of people who have testimonies, it's just one week that gives us a chance to check in on what's happening in your heart. So each and every week, I love when I get a chance to hang out with some friends I've known for a while. So it's kind of, a little double energy for me because I get to catch up, but then you get to hear what's happening in their life as well. And of course, if you grew up on the music of Sanctus Real, then you know the voice of Matt Hammitt, who joins us this week for Records and Recovery. How are you, bud?
Doing great, man. It's good to see an old friend. We've known each other for a long time. And as you know, grew up listening to your show, and back when you were, on syndicated radio, and man, that was really cool to get the chance to get to know you once I got into the biz myself.
How is it that we have been around that long? It doesn't feel that much time has passed.
It doesn't, man. It doesn't.
It's so great.
I'll tell you, you're looking good for your age, my man.
Man, the gray, you wear it well, man. Like I just cover mine with a fedora and slick it back. Yours looks fantastic. Way to go, bravo.
If I looked good in a hat, maybe I'd wear a hat too.
Hey, they're all socially acceptable this day and age, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So before we dive into talking about music, you had a pretty momentous mile marker as a dad this weekend. Tell a little bit about what happened.
Yeah, so my daughter Claire has always loved the Lord. She made a decision to follow Jesus when she was younger, but she always had this anxiety around baptism. And we'd always encouraged her hey, it doesn't matter. You don't have to have it all together. It's just a step that we take, and proclaiming our desire to follow him. But hey, when you're ready, you tell us. And so just about a month ago, she came to us and said, I really think that I should be baptized. And so that was huge for us because, that's a huge mile marker in especially for parents with your kids,
Yep.
desiring on their own to declare their faith and take new steps to serve God. And so that was really special. So I got to baptize Claire at church this weekend in front of our church family and in front of our immediate family. And it was just a really beautiful, such a meaningful moment for me.
That's so great. Yeah, when my oldest daughter, who's now almost 25, when she was 6, and she was like, Dad, tell me more about God. And it just started like a 6-day conversation. And so being able to baptize her and go through that journey as she was the Y kid, right? I think everybody probably has that one Y kid in their house.
Absolutely.
And she was just always curious and paying attention to things that people were saying and doing. And I remember there were times, and maybe your kids have done this, where they catch you in what they think is a lie, but really what it was you said, if we have time, we'll do X, or we'll go do Y. But really to them, because we didn't get time for X or Y, Daddy, you lied. You got to pray, And I'm like, hold on a second.
Totally.
Let's talk about the difference here. But I love that we can have those conversations with our kids, because on the journey of faith, especially as we talk about music, it always was great to be able to then lead them through, whether we were listening to the Beatles or we were listening to worship or whatever it may have been. What has been that connection with your kiddos' music, being that that's been your life for so many years?
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. Music is such a big deal in our house. And man, I've always loved music, but my kids, have developed such a love for music even on their own and different styles of music. I love the eclectic mix of music that they listen to. Actually, funny enough, my daughter Claire, who just got baptized, she's a massive Fleetwood Mac fan.
All right.
And yeah, and so, but she also loves worship. And that's kind of how all my kids are. They've got some of these great um, artists that have influenced their musical taste, but they also absolutely love to listen to worship music and what's happening in the Christian music space. And that's kind of how I grew up too, like having some really deep musical influences, but also caring about the messages of the songs. And I see that in them where they're like they do take care in what they want to take in. And that has actually been the platform for a lot of really great conversations in our house. We talk about it all the time. A song will come on by an artist that they're into, and some lyric will come on that we're kind of like, oh, interesting, and it always leads to the conversation of worldview and what we think about what it is the artist is actually saying. And so music has really been a springboard, not just Christian, but also mainstream music have both been springboards for some amazing conversation around our worldview in our home.
Yeah. Talking with Matt Hammitt this week on Records and Recovery. Matt, are your kids maybe having the aspirations to maybe be a professional musician or a vocalist?
Yeah. So my oldest daughter, Emmy, she's 19. She's headed to a school of ministry down in Texas. And she loves to lead worship. She's led worship for our church for a lot of years. She led worship uh, down in Florida for a while. She has no aspirations whatsoever to be famous or to have her name known,
Yeah.
which I kind of love about her. She just loves to use her gift. And so she wants to serve regardless, but she's a phenomenally talented worship leader. And I do hope that she gets to use her voice in that way. Um, and my son, Bowen, my 14-year-old, he loves to produce and write music. He just
Mm.
actually produced a track and had my little 5-year-old nephew and then my father-in-law do this hilarious track that he produced and made for them.
Mm.
And so he's always messing around, always doing something with music. He's already learned Pro Tools. I'm sorry, not Pro Tools, Logic, and
Yeah.
um, he just loves to produce. So two out of the four not only love music but also have gifts in music. So been pretty nice to see.
That's so great. So let's go back to Little Matt. What was those early influences that either maybe was the first album you bought with your own money or the first one that really impacted you to say, man, I think I really want to do this for a living?
Yeah. So early on, my parents had an interesting mix of vinyl, and they used to have part of the cabinet was like Cat Stevens, Joni Mitchell, the Beatles, all these great artists on vinyl, and then they also had another part of the record cabinet that was like Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith, the Imperials,
Hmm.
and so it was kind of neat to have a mix, even from a young age, just like I talked about with my kids, of great classic cultural music, and then also having great faith-driven music as well. And so for me, it was kind of those early vinyls when I was really young. And then when I started getting into my own music, I was always drawn, for whatever reason, to that certain kind of pop, rock, melodic. So Sting and the Police were probably just stylistically one of my favorite bands of all time. But also, I was listening to bands at the same time, like early Christian music, DC Talk, Audio Adrenaline.
Mm.
I remember when Switchfoot came out. But I think the first, oh gosh, what was the name of that group? I can't believe that I'm flaking right now. They had Mr. Wendell, um, uh,
Oh, Arrested Development?
Arrested Development. Yes,
Yeah.
Arrested Development was the first single on CD that I ever bought for myself.
Mm.
Uh, Tracy Chapman, Fast Car,
Yeah,
like
man.
that was one of the ones I had. And then I also bought a lot of the Tooth and Nail stuff around that same time too. That started coming out in like the late '90s with MXPX, and there was a band called Morel's Forest that I loved. And on the CCM side, there was a band that you would remember called Guardian
Oh,
that
yeah.
I used to love. I used to love Guardian and Bride. I would like Petra as well, their old stuff and their current stuff in the 90s at that time. But yes, that's kind of the way it continued for me, man. We started our band, we started Sanctus Real. We still had that same kind of mix. We were still loving like Switchfoot and Audio and all those guys. Uh, but then we also loved like Weezer and the Foo Fighters. And
Hmm.
so that kind of sound of the early 2000s, that rock sound really developed who we were in that time frame and the kind of music that we really wanted to make.
Yeah. Hanging out with Matt Hammitt on this week's Records and Recovery. I know that, you've been doing this long enough. You've seen the pendulum of how stylistically and technically CCM music has changed a lot. I'm just curious your take on, as we went from trying to be the hip cool in the room to then this worship movement that exploded, and now it kind of feels like it's moved back into a hybrid of all of that. What do you feel like are you excited about the direction that CCM is right now, or do you feel like there's something that's still missing? Just, between two buds, I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, and I have a lot of thoughts about that. You know, I remember when the worship movement first started because, well, I can't say when it first started, but like when it first started becoming very commercialized. And I don't think that's really a bad thing. I think that I love the fact that worship music and congregational worship has been able to move in a direction where there's a lot of great artists who are making songs for the church to sing.
Yeah.
But I remember when all the record labels wanted all the rock bands to start covering all the worship songs and making worship albums. I started as a worship leader alongside of doing the Sanctus Real thing in high school. I did both. So worship really to me was a massive part of who I was. But what I didn't like was I felt like the labels wanted us to make a worship record because it was profitable at the moment.
Hmm.
And that was hard for me. It was like, if we're going to write worship songs or make something um, out of where we naturally felt like we were, our creative gifts were as a band, that'd be one thing. But when them coming, hey, worship is hot right now, it's blowing up. We want to make this record. It's going to sell big. That always felt just so weird to me. Um, but I don't know. I've had to navigate a lot, whether that was like my own ideas as being like, oh, I'm an artist, or if there was pride in there, or like I'm always struggling between my own issues with
Yeah.
the way I view art and music and like what the issues really are. What I will say currently, it's a little interesting, I think, just the level of celebrity and uh it's like the worship leaders actually are way bigger rock stars than the people in rock bands I ever knew
Sure.
at this point.
That's a fair assessment.
And and I mean they make way more money, they have way more fans. They the whole style thing is like, like it's always on the edge. Great. That's great. That's fine. I don't know what it is in me that wrestles with those things.
Sure.
And I'm trying to work it out, man, because I don't know. I love the modern worship music and I love having it in my home. And I love the songs that are being written and the songs we're singing at church. My kids are benefiting from it.
Hmm.
So a lot of that, I wonder, like if I'm why I'm working it out myself. But there's definitely some tensions there between the, big celebrity image stuff and like the heart of worship.
Yeah.
And I don't know what those lines are. I don't know where those tensions are at all the time. But it presses on me a little bit.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like I'm still fishing around to know how I feel about it.
Hmm.
Um, and then on the one hand, I go sometimes like, man, maybe I don't need to feel anything about it. It's like I don't know. I get caught in that tension too. Does that make
Sure.
sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and as someone who's, leading worship in an Episcopal setting and trying to incorporate contemporary and hold on to the legacy of the tradition of hymns and, Sanctus and, and things, fractions and things that, have been a part of the liturgy for decades, generations, right? And what I've loved about it as a musician is being able to find a song that fits and not feeling the need to replicate the recording.
Yeah.
Find the parts of the song that work within what kind of vibe, for lack of better words, that I feel God is leading that service to be, and then allowing the musicians that I have to say, hey, what do you guys want to do with this song? And then letting that creative process be so that it may just be a verse, chorus, chorus, because that's what works, right? And it may even be the third verse, not the first. Because again, that's the beautiful thing about music, is when we let it be an extension of our hearts, then that draws us not only to each other, but then obviously draws us to God, because it's, as I like to say, we read the room, right? It's like, what's going to work within the context of the service about the message, or the, if it's a particular kind of special day, if it's Ash Wednesday or whatever it might be, you try to find that, because again, I want to make sure that we're breaking the mold of two things. One, it needs to be a song that's singable. So, let's definitely make that happen. But then also, what is the part of the song that makes our thumbprint so that it is allowing people to feel like that, wow, I didn't know how to say that to God, but this song helped me to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think part of that is finding the sacred space where we lead people to the heart of God through music, right? And I think that's always going to be a push and pull. And I don't think it's just worship music. I think it was also even with all of CCM music, because the one thing I will say I do miss, because a little while back you said, do you think something's missing? One of the things that I really do miss is in the Christian music space, the space that was made for like bands, number one. I don't feel like there's a lot of like organic bands out there in the Christian music space. Also, I think the storytelling space is kind of in Christian music, stories that are told about faith and life have been edged into like a very small part of the industry now.
Yeah.
And so I think there's so much like what the idea of what worship is and how we use song to lead people to the heart of God in an authentic way. I think what you're saying, like finding those songs that fit, whether it's at church or whether it's in life, finding the way to use music to lead people.
Yeah.
And that is, like you said, there's no like one way to do that. But when we do it, when we hit it, when we feel it, and we are impacted by it, there's really nothing else that can do that thing in our hearts quite like music can.
Yeah.
It's its own kind of medicine.
Yeah, no doubt. Hanging out with Matt Hammitt this week on Records and Recovery to talk about, the heart of music. What is either a song or an artist maybe that was a part of your most broken moment?
Gosh, there's so many, man. Dude, well, it's interesting. Just today, I was writing about an experience I had where a song met me in an exact moment. Back in 2010, when my wife and I were our son was diagnosed with congenital heart disease while we were still pregnant. So it was like 21 weeks. We went in for an ultrasound, found out that he only had half of his heart. And I was just writing this today because I'm going to share it in a message that I'm giving for an event. We went out to our car after that appointment, finding out that our boy's heart was broken. We were completely broken. We had at that time a CD player in our car, and we always listened to CDs.
Yeah.
We never even really touched the radio a lot at that point in our car. But I turned on my car and I went to put on a CD, and we got a message flashing that our CD player wasn't working. And so I hit the radio button, and the minute I hit the button on the radio, 10th Avenue North, Hold My Heart came on the radio. And in that moment, it was so crazy because that moment of brokenness, it was like God met us through Christian radio with a song in our time of need. And I was just reflecting on that today, how crazy it is when God meets us with a song in those exact moments that we need it the most.
Yeah, so true. Hanging out with Matt Hammitt on this week's Records and Recovery. Matt, when you go to write a song, how vulnerable or transparent do you try to be?
Well, when I'm writing for me, extremely vulnerable.
Right. It's the only way.
Uh, it's a lot of songs that nobody has ever heard or probably ever will hear.
Yeah.
But it's always been extremely important for us, for people who've listened to Sanctus Real over the years. I hope that they, well, they would probably see or sense that we've poured a lot of our lives into our songs. You know, the biggest song we had as Sanctus Real was Lead Me, about marriage and how hard it is, man, to do family and to do marriage and parenting. And it's like, man, that is such uh, a responsibility as a father and as a husband. I know you're a husband, you're a dad.
Mhm.
And it's like the desire to lead and but still like that feeling of helplessness of I know I need to lead, but Lord, I feel lost and helpless in this. I think being honest about not really having all the answers, that's probably been the most important thing to me. I have a song called Try that I wrote. I want my solo out, last full length solo album that I put out. And you know, the chorus is just he's not afraid of your doubt. Go ahead, let it all out. Nothing can shake him, nothing can break him. You know, say it out loud. You know, and
Mhm.
it's like you can't break God. Go ahead, try. You
Yeah.
can't. And I think it's so important for us to just be able to kind of put our hands up and say, I know who the answer is. I don't know what all the answers are.
Yeah. So true. So when you go to write, do you sit down with the idea of I'm writing this because my heart needs to sponge this out, or do you write it thinking that it might be something people might also want to hear, but then it's so transparent that you're like, nope, this is just tucked away.
Yeah. It's a lot of songs I write on my own that are just me needing to just like work it out, man.
Mhm.
And those are a lot of the ones that are just for me, or if I feel like there's something in there that is meant for either another artist, because I write a lot with other artists,
Yeah.
or something that's meant for me, I might bring it to the table with another writer to help me take a real look at it and see what we could do to kind of work it out in a way that could be meaningful to other people as well. So there's kind of both approaches, you know, and then there's sometimes I just get an idea, I hear somebody else talk about something that they're going through, and it spurs an idea for me for a song that I think maybe could be an encouragement to them or to
Mhm.
people who are going through that same thing. And maybe I'll actually write kind of almost like it's like me feeling like this song is like a letter in a way
Yeah. Yeah.
to people who are going through something difficult in life. So yeah, it could be either or for me.
Yeah. Well, and I know Matthew West has kind of become the poster boy for he can take anybody's story and make a hook out of it, which is great. I love that about him. But I feel like that's what artists do. Like you hear other people's stories, or they'll say something in such a way that they're not trying to write a song, but it's just how they really feel. And then as a songwriter, you go, man, there's a lot of people probably feeling that exact way. And then it spurs a chorus or just the idea of, a song that could help someone to heal through something.
Yeah, I think the craziest thing is that when you can find that thread in the song, that's just really a real piece of who you are and what you're going through and what you're feeling and what you're dealing with and what you're questioning and what you're working out with God, or just in your own life. When you can get that thread into a song, it is really crazy how it can meet somebody else
Mm.
in the deepest parts of the fabric of who they are. It's almost like it gets sewn into them in a way. Another way I always put it, it's like almost like you could put this song in a bottle and send it out into the ocean, and
Yeah.
somebody finds the bottle and they open it up and they can actually experience the exact same thing you felt when you put it in there.
Yeah.
It is really a wild thing, but there's an art, music is just one of those things, man. It's like a 4 minute song or a 3 minute song. What can happen in that amount of time
Yeah.
is is a complete spiritual mystery to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Hanging out with Matt Hammitt on this week's Records and Recovery. I know as a songwriter, I'm a huge fan of the collaboration. Do you feel that that is truly where it happens, or do you still feel like, well, if you can write it by yourself, great, but when you can, collaborate?
I love to collaborate. There are some songs like the ones we talked about that I'm just like working things out on my own that I will finish. But like I said before, even on those, if there's something there, I want to collaborate with somebody.
Yeah.
I also love just going into the room, whether it's for another artist or for me, and starting at square one and say, hey, everybody bring your ideas to the table. And whatever one just seems to rise to the surface, we'll just kind of get after it and go. And that is to me where the like a different kind of joy is discovered is in the collaboration. Much more fulfilling to me than most of the times that I'm trying to hash something out on my own.
Well, and I think if there's anything I know after watching the Beatles get back and watching how they would bounce ideas off of each other, it was in an encouraging way a lot of times because we think, oh, well, that's a garbage lyric. Someone else goes, no, that's the brilliant line. Leave that alone. And I think that's what's cool is for someone to have that you can bounce that back and forth off of.
Yeah, it really is, man. It can go one of two ways, you know. It's like most of the time you're in the room and it's like a good like playing a good game of ping pong, right? Like you're hitting that
Right.
ball back and forth and you get it going and it's like a good volley and we're all having fun and it's like you can feel the energy in the room. Every once in a while, you get in a room with someone who just like it feels like they just watch the ball pass them, watch the ball pass them, and they never hit it back.
So
You know,
true.
you're like, yo, man, you're hitting down all my ideas, and you're not passing anything back. You know, so it's like when you get in the room with someone who has that creative energy, who can keep it moving,
Hmm.
that's really fun, man.
Yeah, I love that. Matt, before I let you go, man, tell me what do you love about where you are with God right now?
Yeah, honestly, I'm in a sweet season personally right now of consistency.
Mm.
I think there have been times in my life where I've felt maybe more the emotions
Yeah.
of a relationship with God. And I'm 45, kind of in that midlife place where I'm like feeling new tensions in life and how do I navigate new seasons with like a kid leaving the house and,
Mm.
you know, just changes in life and our kids all are teenagers now and just trying to be a good dad, trying to be a good husband, and sometimes the stress of just navigating all the tensions of life can make you feel worn down.
Yeah.
And there's through that some of those seasons this past year, there've been mountaintops and there's been valleys, as there always will be. But I think that the consistency of spending time with God, and I've always desired to do that, and to some degree have, but like this is a season where every single day I've just been taking time to make sure that I prioritize that
Mm.
and focus that time, you know, whether it's 5 minutes or an hour or longer. It's like as long as I'm getting that time in, I do find that it's regardless of where the waves of life are trying to take me, that I do definitely feel centered on the truth of who
Mm.
God is
Yeah.
and the truth of his word in my life. And yeah, it's just kind of been less of a sweet season of the emotional highs
Yeah.
of that and more the sweet season of just the consistency of God's truth and his promises and standing on them.
That's great.
And so, yeah.
So are you the chill, like between you and your wife, are you the chill and maybe she's, not to say she is. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
in your house, but I know typically
Yeah.
there is that balance between the two.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, I definitely it's a funny tension because everybody who knows us would say I'm the chill and she's the you know the more outgoing or more outspoken. But then she doesn't like when people say that 'cause she's like, "You're just as outspoken as I am." She's like, "You have as much to say as I do." You know, sometimes I think she thinks I have more to say than she does. So it's always funny because that dynamic between us, obviously, she's my best friend.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna be telling her a lot more than I'm gonna be telling anybody else.
Right.
So depends on who you ask, I guess.
Well, and I think that's the beautiful thing, you guys with the Lead Me, was kind of a movement there for a while, which was beautiful because it reminded couples that you're supposed to have that sanctuary with your spouse, and to be able to,
Yeah.
they see you when you do have ugly moments and they love you anyway.
Yep. Yeah, they get, I always say we get the privilege of seeing every side of
Right.
each other, a privilege that nobody else gets, right?
Yep.
And so it can be good, it can be bad. That part can be good or bad sometimes, but it really is a privilege that we get the opportunity to see all of who we are, and bear all of who we are to someone, the good and the bad. And when at the end of the day, they can still accept that and still love us and mirror the grace that God gives us. If we can mirror that to each other,
Yep.
that's a really beautiful thing.
So great. Matt Hammitt has been our guest this week on Records and Recovery. Thanks so much for your time, bud.
Yeah, thanks, Ace. Really appreciate you, man. Always been a fan, always will be.
Records and Recovery is a Spacebird Media production and a part of the Thesis Radio Network. Find more episodes anywhere you listen to podcasts or at thesis.com.